"What's a big shot like you doing here?" The voice of my younger boss, Fisher, echoes through the office. Everyone's suddenly looking at me, wondering what's going on. Among them, Director Thompson has a clearly suspicious look on his face. "Aren't you mistaking him for someone else? This guy's a good-for-nothing high school grad who just acts all high and mighty while stealing his salary." Director Thompson's words are dripping with sarcasm. Director Thompson's always looking down on me. I'm used to being called a good-for-nothing high school grad. But with Fisher's appearance, Director Thompson's about to face a shocking divine punishment. My name's Chris Johnson, 45 years old, currently single, working in the communications department at Ebb Corporation, a big telecom company. Ebb Corporation was only established 10 years ago, and the president's just 30 years old, but it's an incredible company competent for top profits in this industry. I'm extremely bad at interacting with people, so I don't talk much. I've never even had a romantic relationship with a woman at this age. There's a reason I ended up with this personality. It goes back to my childhood. My family situation was complicated. I didn't have parents since birth and was passed around among relatives. In the end, I was raised in a foster care facility. From a young age, I had to be mindful of my surroundings, so I tried to avoid interacting with people as much as possible. That's why, even now, that personality still remains. As someone who didn't have money for college, I inevitably started working right after high school graduation. I remember my heart dancing at the freedom I experienced for the first time in my life. My previous job was very rewarding, and I was able to spend fulfilling days, but for some reason, I changed jobs to my current company at 45. I decided to work hard at this job, just like my previous one, but the situation was different. In the General Affairs Department where I was assigned, there was a boss known as the Demon Sergeant. His name is David Thompson, 35 years old, and he's the director of the Communications Department. After graduating from a prestigious university, Director Thompson joined Ebb Corporation as a mid-career hire. In no time, he kept getting promoted one after another. Now, he's entrusted with everything in the Communications Department as an elite employee. Director Thompson, who became the youngest director in history, was someone the higher-ups looked up to. I knew he was an excellent employee from rumors I heard before working in the Communications Department. I was even looking forward to working with him. But as soon as I joined a company, I was stunned. That's because Director Thompson immediately started looking down on me. "Was an incompetent high school grad old man like you coming into this department? You're older than me but can't do anything." Right after joining the company, Director Thompson said that and clicked his tongue loudly. I was filled with disbelief. Sure, I'm a high school grad, and Director Thompson may be younger than me, but it's wrong to assume I'm incompetent before we even work together. I wondered if it'd be okay with a boss like this. I couldn't help but feel anxious. As expected in this communications department, even when new employees join, they don't last long and quit right away. I was convinced this was all because of Director Thompson. If you make Director Thompson angry, it'll be a hassle. I had no choice but to do my job as Director Thompson said, but Director Thompson would pick on me at every turn. "Hey, who made this conference material?" Director Thompson suddenly got angry. When I timidly raised my hand, Director Thompson's anger flared up like a raging fire. "Of course it's you. Your work is sloppy. Make it more carefully, will ya? Do it over." Director Thompson threw the materials back at me as if he was tossing them. Carefully. I made it the same way I always do, so I don't think anything's wrong, but I reluctantly put more thought into it, read it, and submitted it. But Director Thompson seems dissatisfied, though I don't know what's bugging him. No good. I can't use materials like this. I couldn't believe my ears. I was confident in Mackin conference materials since I did it at my previous job, but no matter how many times I redo it, Director Thompson keeps telling me to redo it. He doesn't explain what's wrong, so I'm puzzled. "I'm sorry, but I don't know where the flaws are." I said that and waited for Director Thompson's instructions. But Director Thompson hits me with a shocking statement. "I can't trust any of the materials you make." I'm at a loss for words. Director Thompson had no intention of using the materials I created from the get-go. That's probably because I'm a high school grad and older than Director Thompson. I couldn't hold back and argued with Director Thompson. You mean the materials I made are unusable? Isn't that a bit too harsh? Then Director Thompson suddenly turned red and started getting angry. Why are you acting like a victim? The most pitiful one is me, who's stuck with an incompetent guy like you. Don't you understand how much trouble you are causing everyone in the department? At Director Thompson's words, the office suddenly falls silent. I honestly don't know if what Director Thompson is saying is true, but it's a shock. You're not important enough to defy me that much. You'll be doing odd jobs for the rest of your life. Director Thompson's voice echoed throughout the office. I regretted changing jobs to this kind of company, but it's too late now. I bit my lip and returned to my desk. Then, I was surprised to see my desk. There was a sticky note on my desk. The sticky note had messages like, "We're not being inconvenienced by you, Mr. Johnson. We're happy to work with you." I'm so moved, I feel like I'm about to cry. Kevin, looking my way, gave me a peace sign. Kevin is 28 years old and a young ace in the communications department. He handles his work flawlessly and is popular with female employees because he's stylish. Kevin probably put the sticky note for me. I felt fortunate to have good colleagues, even though I wasn't blessed with a good boss. But from this day on, I was ordered by Director Thompson to mainly do odd jobs in the communications department. And those odd jobs even included Director Thompson's personal errands. Johnson, go buy my lunch. Huh? Odd jobs are also a part of work and important. But buying Director Thompson's lunch wouldn't count as an odd job, would it? As I was puzzled and struggling to respond, Director Thompson continued talking. A large beef bowl and hot coffee. The coffee is that famous one. I'm not here to do Director Thompson's personal errands. My body trembled with anger. Then, Director Thompson, seeing that, raised his voice. What? Can't you do as I say? An old man who can't do anything without my instructions has to listen to what I say. Go buy it now. I felt like I was going crazy with anger, but I took a deep breath and stayed calm. Understood. I'll be right back. Even though it was during working hours, I took my wallet and left the office. My colleagues around me were looking at me with sympathy. This is how Director Thompson was doing whatever he wanted. And then, a decisive incident finally happens. When I went to work as usual, for some reason, the office was noisy. Wondering what was going on, I asked my colleague at the next desk and found out that Kevin was suddenly decided to be transferred to a regional branch. Why Kevin of all people? Kevin worked harder than anyone else and should have achieved decent results. I don't understand the reason for the transfer. Thinking that, I couldn't stand still and called out to Kevin. Kevin seems a little angry, frowning. I can't accept that you're being transferred. What did you do? When I asked, Kevin started talking fast, seeming to have a lot of pent-up frustration. I think it's because Director Thompson saw me going out for drinks with Ms. Davis last week. My head was filled with question marks. Ms. Davis is that cute female employee, right? I don't quite understand what the problem is with that. When I said that, Kevin let out a big sigh. That's right, actually. With that, Kevin began to tell the truth. Kevin and Ms. Davis had been dating for a while, but they kept it a secret from everyone at the company. That's because Director Thompson had a thing for Ms. Davis, and they thought it would interfere with work if it was found out. But when Kevin went out for drinks with Ms. Davis, they ran into Director Thompson by chance. And Director Thompson was furious, demanding to know what kind of relationship they had, and Kevin ended up telling him they were dating. Then Director Thompson said he couldn't forgive them for being in a romantic relationship within the company without his permission. Kevin says that's why he was transferred. I was so surprised, my eyes went wide. Office romance isn't prohibited, and does that really lead to transfers? If this is true, it's a big problem. I was skeptical, but I would soon realize that what Kevin said was true by seeing Director Thompson's attitude. Director Thompson came into the office in a good mood right after that, and he went straight toward Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis, there's an overnight business event out of state coming up, so let's go together. Ms. Davis is clearly puzzled by Director Thompson's sudden offer. I've never heard of such an event. My colleagues and I watched the scene in astonishment. Just as Kevin said, it was clear that Director Thompson had a thing for Ms. Davis and was jealous of her boyfriend, Kevin. But a boss shouldn't mix personal and professional matters. As I was thinking about what I could do, Kevin quickly walked toward Director Thompson, and he raised his voice loudly, with momentum. "Mr. Thompson, the reason you transferred me is because you want to monopolize Ms. Davis, right?" As soon as Kevin spoke, Director Thompson stopped moving and started getting flustered. My colleagues in the office are watching with bated breath. What are you talking about? There's no way that's true. Then please tell me the reason for my transfer. I can't accept it. It's understandable that Kevin's raising his voice, but Director Thompson argued back just as loudly. "You're a high school grad, aren't ya? This company doesn't need high school grads. You're dead weight." There he goes again. Director Thompson looks down on high school grad employees to an extreme degree. And then he told Kevin something unbelievable. "I understand you want to stay here cause you're dating Ms. Davis, but you got no talent. If you're frustrated, get promoted at your new location like I did. Leave Ms. Davis to me, and you just go find a new girlfriend at your transfer destination." Unbelievable. So Director Thompson was after Ms. Davis after all. Ms. Davis started crying. Several colleagues are looking at Director Thompson with puzzled faces. Director Thompson doesn't seem to realize that what he's saying is ridiculous. I'd had enough. It's absurd no matter how you look at it, for an excellent employee like Kevin to be transferred for Director Thompson's personal reasons. I took a deep breath and opened my heavy mouth. I think Kevin is a talented employee, so it's weird for him to be transferred. When I said that, Director Thompson's anger suddenly shifted toward me. Director Thompson glared at me with a sharp look. "What? Kevin's useless in this department." "I thought so. That's why I transferred him. In this department, what I say is right. You don't understand anything. Director Thompson may be the director in this department, but he seems to have forgotten that his position depends on his subordinates." I thought I'd continue raising my voice to make him understand that, and I opened my mouth. At that moment, Kevin stopped me. "No matter what you say to this person, it won't get through. He's a creature driven by emotion, so it's just a waste of time to talk to him properly. Besides, if you push further, even you, Mr. Johnson, will end up like me." Kevin said that and glared at Director Thompson. Director Thompson heard Kevin's words and got angry again. Driven by emotion. Who are you saying that to? Kevin starts laughing. "I'm saying it to you, Mr. Thompson. Since you're not my boss anymore, I got to say what I wanted to say. Well then, I'm heading to my transfer location, so do your best. Though I don't think it'll last long." My colleagues around me are stunned by Kevin's words. And so, Kevin left the office. Will this department remain under Director Thompson's rule from now on? A hint of unease crosses my mind. After Kevin left, Director Thompson started treating me even worse. He must be holding a grudge against me for standing up to him. And since that incident, even more people have quit. They probably thought this company has no future after seeing the exchange between Kevin and Director Thompson. I can say I don't understand that feeling. Incompetent Johnson. Hurry up and clean the office. Today, Director Thompson's angry shouts echo through the office again. As I got up with a heavy heart, wondering why I have to do this, Director Thompson hurled his usual abuse at me. "This is all you're good for, so do it properly." And today, the new executive director is coming to greet this department. Clean every nook and cranny. Look, there's dust built up on this shelf, isn't there? Director Thompson took the dust with his finger like a mean mother-in-law and showed it to me. "If you're gonna say that much, why don't you clean it yourself?" That's what I thought, but if I talk back, it'll just cause more trouble. I followed his instructions and started cleaning the office. And that's when it happened. The office door swung open forcefully, and a beautiful woman walked in. As soon as Director Thompson saw the woman, he stood up and greeted right away. "Executive Director Fisher, thank you very much for coming all the way to the communications department." Director Thompson speaking in a higher voice than usual, which is kinda weird. "So this is the new executive director." I stared intently at Executive Director Fisher's face. With her well-defined features and slender figure, she looks just like a magazine model. I had heard rumors that Executive Director Fisher was becoming an executive director at this company, but I'm surprised she's such a young, beautiful person. No, managing departments is also part of my job. Executive Director Fisher said that and looked around the department. Director Thompson continues talking to Executive Director Fisher. I'm thrilled to be able to work with someone talented enough to be headhunted." As she listened to Director Thompson's words, Executive Director Fisher suddenly looked in my direction, and by chance, her eyes met mine as I was cleaning. At that moment, Executive Director Fisher let out a surprised voice. "Huh? What's someone like you doing here?" My colleagues who were present all looked at me at once, especially Director Thompson, who was clearly looking at me with a suspicious face. "Aren't you mistaking him for someone else? This guy's an incompetent high school grad who just acts high and mighty while stealing his salary." Upon hearing Director Thompson's words, Executive Director Fisher checked my face several times and said, "No, there's no mistake about this person." Just as Executive Director Fisher was about to say that, one of my colleagues raised his voice. "Mr. Thompson, we have a problem. The Information Management Department informed us that customer information has been leaked." "What? Why has that happened? Is it your doing?" Director Thompson's voice is flustered. Then that colleague revealed a surprising fact. "I was just following the instructions given by you." Upon hearing the colleague's words, Director Thompson became agitated all at once. It seems that Director Thompson's instructions were wrong and led to the information leak. Executive Director Fisher, who was watching the situation, calmly raised her voice. "We need to stop that leak quickly. Mr. Thompson, please act swiftly." As expected of Executive Director Fisher, her instructions are flawless, but Director Thompson is at a loss. "I don't know how to stop the leak." Director Thompson seems too flustered to think calmly. "At this rate, it'll turn into a big problem." I stood up. "Let me borrow the computer." I said that, sat at Director Thompson's desk, and was about to operate the computer, but Director Thompson yelled at me. Don't touch my computer, you incompetent guy. How will you take responsibility if the leak spreads even more?" Director Thompson shouted at me, but I didn't stop working. Then, Executive Director Fisher raised her voice at Director Thompson. "Huh? What are you saying? Mr. Johnson is a capable person. Just be quiet and watch." At Executive Director Fisher's loud voice, Director Thompson fell silent. Only the typing sound of my computer can be heard in the office. In the quiet office, everyone was focusing on my work. Everyone is captivated by my skilled hands. And in just 10 minutes, I was able to stop the information leak. The information that had already leaked out has also been retrieved. At Amazon, the office was filled with applause. "Who are ya?" Even Director Thompson is surprised, his eyes wide. Then, Executive Director Fisher approached me. "Mr. Johnson, I never thought I'd see you here. As expected, it's great to see your skills haven't changed from the past." Executive Director Fisher said to me with a smile. "No, I've gotten quite rusty compared to the past. After all, I've just been doing odd jobs lately." When I said that, Executive Director Fisher seemed at a loss for words. "What? You're doing odd jobs? You're kidding, right?" "No, it's true. The other day, I was even sent to buy Director Thompson's lunch. I felt really miserable myself." When I told the facts as they were, Director Thompson's face suddenly turned pale. Executive Director Fisher glared at Director Thompson. "Is it true that you are bossing Mr. Johnson around?" When Executive Director Fisher said that, Director Thompson became flustered and said something unbelievable. "No, I just thought I'd train Mr. Johnson as his boss since he's my subordinate." What in the world is this person saying? I had thought for a while that he was out of his mind, but honestly, I didn't think it was to this extent, so I'm too stunned to say anything. Executive Director Fisher seemed to feel the same way as me and let out a big sigh. We can't let Director Thompson continue doing whatever he wants any longer. Just as I was thinking that, Executive Director Fisher revealed a shocking truth to Director Thompson. "I'll tell you since you don't seem to know, but I don't think Mr. Johnson is the kind of person you think he is." "What do you mean?" Director Thompson's eyes went wide. "Mr. Johnson is the person who founded the company I used to work for." "What? The company you used to work for is his corporation, the one that competes with our company for the top spot. You're saying this incompetent Johnson founded that company?" Director Thompson has a disbelieving look on his face. My colleagues started whispering among themselves, and the office became a buzz. They never thought that I, a Windows seat employee, had founded a company. He's retired as president now, But Mr. Johnson was known as a young and capable president back then. Some people even called him a legendary programmer. So, it's possible that Mr. Johnson's abilities are far above yours. Executive Director Fisher emphasized that point. Just as Executive Director Fisher said, "Before I started working here, I was the president of his corporation. The reason I thought of starting a company was because I strongly felt the harshness of society. After graduating from high school and leaving the foster care facility, I started living on my own, but I had a hard time finding a job. That's because my highest education being high school had a strong influence. No one would hire me with only a high school diploma. It's sad, but this is reality. However, I couldn't just stand there at a loss, so I took action. I had always been good with computers and was part of the programming club in high school. From that experience, I thought I might be able to do a job that involves using computers. If there were no companies that would hire me, I thought I'd just start my own, and that's how I founded his corporation. At first, I struggled with funding day after day, but I couldn't give up. I kept working hard day after day in a room in my apartment. Then, profits gradually kept increasing, and before I knew it, we had our own office building and grew to have over 1,000 employees. I started getting more requests to hear about my management techniques. So in addition to being president, I actively gave lectures and helped people who were about to start their own companies. Due to circumstances, I had to step down as president, but his corporation is definitely the company I founded. Upon hearing Executive Director Fisher's story, Director Thompson raised his voice as if he had given up. "Even so, you've quit being president now, and you're still my subordinate, right? Then it's common sense for a subordinate to listen to their boss." Executive Director Fisher cleared her throat loudly. "You really didn't understand anything, do you?" Executive Director Fisher said that, shrugged her shoulders, and left the office. After making sure Executive Director Fisher was gone, Director Thompson once again attacked me. "Just because you used to be a president doesn't mean I'll do as you say. You're hugely mistaken if you think that. This department doesn't need a high school grad like you. So what if you know Executive Director Fisher? That has nothing to do with me. He's acting completely different from his attitude earlier and is really acting high and mighty." But Ms. Davis suddenly stood up. "Mr. Johnson is someone this department needs. Mr. Johnson listened to my concerns sincerely. If Mr. Johnson leaves, I'll quit too." Ms. Davis spoke powerfully, unlike before. Furthermore, my other colleagues also stood up. "Mr. Johnson also listened to my concerns. He's totally different from you, Mr. Thompson. Isn't the truly unnecessary personnel you?" Upon hearing everyone's words, Director Thompson's face turned bright red, and his anger flared up like a raging fire. "Enough. If you have a problem with me, get out. You're all fired." The office fell silent. At that moment, the office door swung open forcefully, and the president of UB Corporation, Mr. Parker, walked in. Executive Director Fisher was behind him. Executive Director Fisher probably brought Mr. Parker along because she thought she couldn't handle it alone. "Mr. Thompson, what in the world are you saying? I absolutely won't allow you to fire employees as you please." "Mr. Parker, why are you here?" Director Thompson is so surprised he's jumping up. "It's my company. I can be wherever I want. Anyway, it's unbelievable to fire employees as you please. So it was your fault that important employees have been quitting until now." Mr. Parker, known for always being gentle, is shaken with anger. Director Thompson immediately started making excuses. I was just provident employee training to my subordinates." "So you're saying looking down on Mr. Johnson as an incompetent high school grad is also part of employee training?" Mr. Parker crossed his arms and looked at Director Thompson. Director Thompson quietly nodded. "That's right. I've never heard of or seen such employee training. Can't you realize that Mr. Johnson is someone you should never look down on? Who do you think is the reason this company you work for is able to make profits like this now?" "Huh?" Director Thompson froze. Mr. Parker revealed my true identity to Director Thompson. "When starting this company, Mr. Johnson helped me out. This company wouldn't exist without Mr. Johnson." Director Thompson's mouth is open in surprise. That's to be expected. Only the company's executives know that fact. Everyone in the office is also listening to the story with wide eyes. And no way. Then why is he working here as a regular employee? Director Thompson is pressing Mr. Parker with an unbelieving face. That's when I decided to state the truth. I asked to work here. What? Mr. Parker nodded. Actually, I wanted him to join me on the management side, but when this company was established, Mr. Johnson was the president of his corporation. The plan was for Mr. Johnson to leave AB Corporation to me and continue running his own company, but something unexpected happened. Everyone present is listening intently to Mr. Parker's words. When I talked about that, Mr. Johnson even quit being president to come to this company. When Mr. Parker said that, Director Thompson opened his mouth. Something unexpected. Then Executive Director Fisher glared at Director Thompson. It's the employees in the communications department, said to be the heart of this company, quitting one after another. Since you became the director of the communications department, easily over 20 people have quit, right? Some were even transferred. To be frank, this is abnormal. Executive Director Fisher said that and let out a big sigh. But after seeing inside the department today, I understand well why the employees have been quitting. Isn't that right, President? Mr. Parker nodded at Executive Director Fisher's words. Yeah, it was all your fault. The responsibility lies with me for mistakenly thinking you were talented. Saying that, Mr. Parker dropped his shoulders, feeling down. That's right. I was actually involved in the establishment of AB Corporation. The first time I met Mr. Parker was 11 years ago. Mr. Parker was a 19-year-old part-time worker at the time, making a living by jumping from one part-time job to another. Like me, Mr. Parker was raised in a foster care facility, and after graduating from high school, he tried his best in job hunting but had a hard time finding a job due to being a high school graduate. That's when Mr. Parker came to my lecture. He wanted to be independent and work properly, and he had things he wanted to do, but because he was a high school grad, he couldn't get hired. After worrying, he seemed to have thought of starting a business like I did. Mr. Parker started coming to my lectures frequently, and I gradually started to care about him. Then one day, a message arrived in my work email. It was from Mr. Parker, saying he was seriously considering starting a business and had specific ideas, but he didn't know what to do, so he wanted my help. Even though I was so busy with work that I was honestly even cutting into my sleep time, I couldn't leave Mr. Parker, who was in a similar situation, alone. So I helped Mr. Parker start his business. With my help, Mr. Parker established AB Corporation. Mr. Parker's company continued to increase its sales at a rapid pace. Mr. Johnson, if you'd like, would you work for us? If you'll work for us, I'd really like you to be the vice president. Mr. Parker wanted to work with me, but at the time, I still had things I needed to accomplish as the president of his corporation, so I declined. But then, 10 years later, last year, Mr. Parker came to me for advice, looking troubled. He said that employees in the communications department weren't staying and were quitting right away, and profits were slumping. I couldn't overlook this. Feeling a sense of crisis, I left my company to others and decided to work at AB Corporation. Seeing how hard Mr. Parker had worked until now, I couldn't help but assist him. Fortunately, my corporation's performance was skyrocketing, and I had a strong feeling that it would be okay even if I left it to others. So I decided to be assigned to the problematic communications department, hiding my true identity. I thought I might find out the cause by working in the communications department. What I witnessed there was Director Thompson's tyrannical behavior. I wanted to report this to Mr. Parker right away, but just as I was about to observe the situation a little longer, Mr. Parker discovered this fact. Mr. Parker glared at Director Thompson again and clearly stated, "Your inappropriate attitude toward subordinates is too much. Therefore, I'm firing you." Director Thompson turned pale and sat down on the spot. Everyone in the office applauded loudly, rejoicing at Director Thompson's dismissal. Among them was Ms. Davis, with a beaming smile on her face. After that, Director Thompson was formally fired, and peace returned to the company. Just before Director Thompson left the office, Ms. Davis said loudly, "Don't ever come near me again." Director Thompson left without saying a word, trudging away. I probably won't ever see Director Thompson again. On the other hand, employees who were transferred by Director Thompson and those who had quit returned to the office. Of course, Kevin is there too. Everyone seems to be working more happily than before, and I think it's really great. As for me, even now that I've accomplished my mission of rebuilding Mr. Parker's company, I'm still working in the communications department. From now on, I plan to continue working hard at this company as an unsung hero behind the scenes.